Christian Nicolussi, fresh from, well, wouldn't say fresh, but you've arrived.
I look fresh.
I don't know about that, but what a night. Game 2 in Perth, wrapped up. The series heading to Sydney for Game 3. What was it like after the game? You went in the New South Wales sheds. I had the pleasure of being in the Queensland sheds, but you would have had a few upset people in the New South Wales sheds. Give me a rundown of what that was like after the game.
Believe it or not, the mood wasn't too down. They looked pretty sort of confident. I think they knew that was the game that got away.
Arrogant.
The first half, but not arrogant. Just this air of sort of not supreme confidence. I can't describe it. They just knew they could have won that game.
Oh, they should have won that game.
They should have won that game, and I think they know if they play to their potential, it should be a no-brainer in Sydney.
But they haven't played their potential for 160 minutes, really, if you consider the fact that they weren't that good in Origin 1, woeful in the first half, and they put it together for 20 to 30 minutes. Like for 130 minutes of the series, they haven't been very good.
Yeah, it's the first, I think them scoring the first try last night was the worst thing that could have happened to them. They were walking around, it almost looked like it was going to be a procession. They were going to win by how many? I think we were even high-fiving in the press box going, how many points are we going to win by? But they almost clocked off. That first half, they just went through the motions. They didn't look disinterested, but they looked like they were in a rush. They wanted to score off every sort of play. Queensland came back to bite them in the bum, but that second half, again, they stormed home. They played a little bit to their potential. If they play like that, if they start like they do in the second half in Sydney, we should win comfortably. But we thought we were going to win comfortably in Perth last night.
Mate, your boy Nathan didn't look right, did he? He sort of picked, I think you posted a video the day before about Nathan.
Yep.
He was kicking for goal. He wasn't following through with the kick. He was just sort of mimicking the kick. How serious is it? He didn't kick a lot in the first half. He sort of had to in the second.
Yep.
He surrendered the goal-kicking duties. Are we concerned he might not be available for Game 3?
So they're all going to be rested for the Warriors game this weekend, the Penrith boys.
Yep.
Then they host Canterbury Thursday week.
Yep.
He'll be fine. And so all the Penrith fans listening, they should have no concerns about Nathan Cleary. But yesterday, the goal kicking, his first goal kick at the captain's run at Optus Stadium, sorry I said yesterday, Tuesday, he did feel a little pop in his adductor, and it was pretty serious. He ended up sort of just going through the motions. I think he used the word visualising his kicks. But I spoke with the doctor, Nathan Gibbs, this morning. He said it was pretty touch and go.
Really?
The injury itself was manageable, but the fact that it happened 24 hours before the game, that was the biggest concern. Then, of course, they had to weigh up, do they play Nathan and risk him going down in the first minute, or do they take the safe option, rule him out and bring in Matt Burton? Thankfully, Nathan, he was across it the whole time. He said, listen, if I feel I'm good to go, I'm going to be playing. But to help him get through the game, they wanted to remove most of the general kicking and, of course, the goal kicking. But you could sense Nathan was just getting frustrated himself, and come the second half, he thought, bugger this.
Stuff it.
I'm going to go full pelt.
Yeah, it wasn't. Look, the way they played in that first half, they played within themselves. It felt like they had a lot to give, and they just wouldn't get to that level.
Yeah.
Brian To'o, unbelievable performance. Another 200-plus metre game.
Yep.
You felt like Crichton was a bit quiet.
Yes.
There are definitely signs as a New South Wales fan that if they can get it right, they should win the series. But Queensland, like backs against the wall, you just never know what they're going to do. And the lead up into Game 2 with what happened with Billy Slater, you were always worried that it was going to galvanise them. I spoke to Cameron Munster and I asked him in the press conference after the game. He was quite emotional about trying to do it for Billy and the treatment that Billy had gone through in the lead up. You could see that that they as players were sitting back thinking, you're not going to do this to our coach. And I think, we'll get to it a little bit later around the Paul Green situation, but you could definitely tell how much Billy meant to that team with the way they played.
They've always loved Billy. He's a god up there. I know with us being New South Welshmen, we've always sort of loathed Billy. We personally don't loathe Billy, but fans have always sort of not been warm to him. I think it goes back to the Melbourne days. We always thought Melbourne, Billy, I won't use the word, but it was never sort of popular. But he's worshipped.
The G word. The G word's forbidden now. Is that bad?
How many words are going to be forbidden? But I'm not going to use it.
But is the G word that bad?
No, it's not. But if it offends someone, well, it offends
someone.
Poor
old Josh Reynolds has copped it his whole career. It became his nickname.
I call you a...
Oh, don't say it.
I nearly said it.
Look, I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to get offended. Each person, it's subjective what you feel like that word means to you. But I don't think Aaron Woods meant it in a way that you're a grub of a person.
Yeah.
Aaron Woods played with Billy Slater. He was on the receiving end of, Billy Slater, many Billy Slater and Melbourne Storm victories. he has a feeling towards the way Billy Slater played.
Yeah.
That's subjective to what he went through as a player. Now, if you're a Queensland, you don't think that, but there's no doubt Billy Slater tested the boundaries as a player.
Yeah.
And whether he deserved that treatment or not, well, clearly Billy didn't think that Aaron Woods
Yeah.
had the right to say what he did.
I'm glad they rallied for him because I would have hated to think what would have happened to Billy Slater had Queensland come out and got absolutely pounded last
I
night.
honestly thought he would have walked away at the end of the series.
What did that mean for his future? It would have been interesting.
Yeah, because he was safe. Queensland Rugby League weren't going to punt him. He's a good coach, right?
Yep.
But you could just see for the first time that the pressure, or maybe not the first time, you saw signs of it last year, but the pressure of Origin and what it does to a coach. I remember speaking to Freddie about it. Like, it takes you to a place where you're not thinking straight.
Yeah.
And I feel like Billy wasn't thinking straight the other day at that press conference because he had a week to stew over what he was going to say. And for him to decide that the best thing to say was what he did and bring Paul Green into it, I don't think in his right mind he would have made that decision. And he realised later, upon reflection, that he overstepped the mark and he shouldn't have. And he apologised the next morning. And I applaud him for doing so. But he overstepped with those comments. And I think everyone, even people around him, felt, oh, Billy, you shouldn't have gone there.
We were sitting there in the stands. Well, not the stands, at the public forum, the joint press conference in downtown Perth. When he started saying that, I thought, well, good on him. If it's offended you, you got well within your rights.
Bloody oath.
Whether it offends us, it's got nothing to do with us. But if the term, the G word, upset Billy, well, he was well within his rights to say it's upset me. These derogatory comments, he's feeling the pressure, we don't need the pile-on. Even when he made reference to Paul Green, I just thought he was trying to make his case. I didn't think he was trying to be nasty. I think he was trying to flush out Paul Green or his family. The fact he came out and apologised, well, he had to do it. But again, when he said it at the time, I didn't think it was too big a deal. If anything, I thought it was just going to be another distraction for Queensland. Him even having to front the press the next day, I thought this is an absolute disaster. This is going to be an absolute romp for New South Wales. We got proven wrong. We're going back to the game. I just remembered 8-0, Ashley Klein.
Penalty count.
I said to the Queensland last night, in jest, how many cartons of 4X gold were going to A. Klein's address? 8-0. I know New South Wales were very poor with the discipline, and every time they did get the ball, they dropped it and were playing in too much of a hurry, but 8-0, come on. 8-0.
And I felt like a few of the six agains in the second half were just trying to level things up for New South Wales, because I'm sure they would have known the penalty count was 8-0.
Yeah.
Laurie Daly, after the game, was asked about it. He did well not to...
flat-battered.
He flat-battered it. I think he said something along the lines of, I better not say what I really think, because...
I think they were using the word declined. New South Wales declined.
They declined. I like that. They declined to comment.
Leave the journalism to us, guys.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. I like it. Your boy, Cameron Munster, captain, man of the match.
Yes.
Brilliant performance. To be fair, everything that Billy did and all the big calls that he made, if you go through it, naming Munster as captain, kicking the captain out of the team in Daly Cherry Evans, bringing in Dearden, bringing in Kurt Capewell, the shift to the bench with Liero and Carrigan on the bench. Everything he did turned to gold last night, and that is why Ben Ikin said under no situation is he under pressure, because as a coach, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And he got it right last night.
I wasn't sure about Cameron Munster being captain. I thought maybe he's still a bit of a loose human. I thought Harry Grant.
Maybe.
Harry Grant's captain in Clubland. I thought he would have been the natural choice. Even a guy like Paddy Carrigan, but he went with Munster, and Munster rose to the challenge last night.
None of those guys were going to play 80 minutes either.
No.
So that's probably a factor in it as well. But also that he got the response out of Munster that he wanted, because he was terrible in game one.
Yeah, and he got man of the match. I thought Tom Dearden was a little bit hard done by. And Cam Munster, if he had his time over, he had a couple of kicks. One of them in the second half nearly went into row 26.
It was like he was kicking for the AFL post. That's how bad it was.
But he must be that glue. He's such an infectious guy, and he was doing it for Billy. It was like you said earlier, it was pretty emotion charged. He brought the group together. Good on him. Hopefully they can enjoy their win in Perth. By the time we get back in 3 weeks' time, hopefully we're singing a different tune.
To'o could have even got man of the match in a losing team. He was that good.
Well, he got New South Wales player, and it was unbelievable the fact that he could barely train for 10 days with his hamstring. He did a fresh injury. He said hamstring issues all year, but to come out with limited preparation, and I just love seeing the side of him with this white headgear, burrowing his head. He looks about 2 foot tall when he's actually out in the ground.
Honestly, he gets his head into positions. Like if he cops a head-eye tackle, it should be playing on. Like he's constantly burying his head into the defenders. Like he snuck under one to score a try, and he does it nearly. I reckon he does it 60% of the time when he runs. He just buries his head, and like a good mate, unbelievable bravery and confidence. But if I'm a defending team and I get done for a hit to the head, I'll be filthy.
I spoke to him last night in the sheds. He had ice on a foot. He had ice on his knees, ice on the hamstring.
And a can of Coke in his hands.
I don't think he had a can of Coke in his hands at that stage, but he had his shirt off. I was admiring his Samoan tattoos. Anyway, he had his head down the whole time. I'm talking to him, and I started thinking, is there something wrong with his neck? So I said, Brian, what's going on with your neck? And he said, huh? I said, well, you can't lift your neck. Have you done your neck now as well? Like you're running out of body parts to actually injure. And he looked up to me. He said, nah, bro, I just can't hear you. He was putting his ear to his...
okay. He didn't understand your accent.
I was probably mumbling, yes.
Yes.
Very good. That's insulting.
Let's get to some of the New South Wales, the big moments. The Nathan Cleary tried, disallowed, overturned. I personally think it was the right call, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Some people arguing that perhaps he went through the line anyway and he didn't have to,
Yep.
I think they made the right call. Big call, a 12-point turnaround.
I think it was Stefano that backed into
Carrigan, yeah.
What was more amazing about that non-try was we spoke about Nathan Cleary's groin. How on earth he stepped off the right, then swerved back to the left with that adductor problem.
Yeah.
That was a heart and mouth moment for a lot of the Blues medicos, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, it mustn't have been that bad, though, if he...
Yeah, well, he couldn't play with a needle.
Yeah, but you couldn't tell. Like, obviously, he didn't do the kicking, right?
It's more the fear of what could have happened.
Yeah, but if he didn't have the compression bandage on his leg, and he wasn't avoiding the goal kicking, would you have known by the way he was playing? He didn't look like it.
No, he was moving lovely.
Yeah,
but even his kicks in that second half, I know he stood up and wanted to take the lion's share of the kicks, but it was just a little bit off. You could just tell he wasn't unleashing.
Yeah,
at 100%.
They got a couple of players who were charged. Jerome Luai, facial. Apparently not an eye gouge. It was a charge for a facial.
Spoke to him and Ruben in the sheds.
Yep.
He said it was never an eye gouge. He said he was getting a bit cranky. He thought it was a few stray elbows, so just frustration. He's put his hands, his big mitts across Ruben Cotter's face. I then went and saw Ruben Cotter. I said, mate, what's doing? Was it an eye gouge? He said, it wasn't an eye gouge. He got cranky. He thought there was elbows going everywhere.
Yeah.
And a bit of a shoulder from Jerome. Ruben Cotter had a massive, massive bruise above his left eye. I thought, that can't be from Jerome, can it? He said, no. He said, it's your mate, Liam Martin. God bless
Well, mate, Liera copped a hit to the head with Lomax. Maybe a little bit of gamesmanship to get a penalty there, but Lomax escapes suspension. He just got fined as well, was it, for Lomax?
Fined as well.
Yeah,
this is what Jerome Luai was saying. So he felt he copped an elbow to the face in that moment with a Ruben Cotter tackle, got frustrated. Zach Lomax does the same thing to Trent Liero. We talk about these 50-50 calls, this 8-0 penalty count. Queensland get the penalty. New South Wales get penalised in Jerome Luai's situation. Rubber the green, baby. Rubber the green.
It's not going to be an issue because Mitchell Moses won't be fit to play.
Yep.
But imagine if Mitchell was only a short-term injury. What do you think New South Wales would have been thinking after that performance? Would Mitchell have come straight back in? Did Jerome do enough? Set up a couple of tries with the boot?
Yeah.
Would have been an interesting situation Laurie Daly would have found himself in.
I thought Jerome Luai was almost symbolic of New South Wales. He was really slow to start with. It was a bit clunky. I think he missed a few tackles, but the longer the game went on, the more and more he looked more comfortable. And when that left edge combines with him and Latrell and Angus and Brian To'o, there's no more beautiful sight. And they had a lot of success going down that.
Getting poetic with us.
I'm sorry, Michael. I'm just trying to be. I don't want to call you Michael.
There's no more beautiful sight.
It was lovely. Brian To'o was the most beautiful sight.
Hopefully your wife's not listening.
I miss my wife.
Yeah.
See you soon, Kim. Actually, Michael...
You paused there. I felt like you.
Why are you looking at me like this?
I felt like you were going to keep going with your love letter to your missus, but you didn't go any further. So I'll let you have your moment. Anyway.
We'll get off the script a little bit here.
Yeah, talk to me.
What happens if Mitchell Moses? Well, he is unavailable. Let's face it, for Game 3.
Yeah.
Let's say Nathan Cleary. His adductor's going to be fine, but hypothetically, if he goes down,
aggravates it. Let's say he aggravates it against the Bulldogs.
The adductor. Who is next cab off the rank? If Matt Burton's 18th man, but are we seriously going to go with two left footers in the halves?
You can't go Burton and Luai. I would go, this might sound stupid, but I'd go Isaiah Katoa at 7.
Ding, 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 ding,
You're
ding.
with me?
I'm with you, baby. I'm with you. And he's over here. I'd love to go meet the kid. Very
he's
well
over
spoken.
here. Because they're playing this weekend in Perth, yeah.
But he's that perfect halfback, very robotic, just gets the job done. But him and Jerome Luai, I'm only saying this hypothetically, but if there was an issue with Nathan, it was a bit more serious than we thought, which it's not. And Mitchell Moses, we know won't be back. God, that'd be a nice combination too.
Yeah, I'd love to see him. I don't know what the Dolphins' schedule is. I'd love to see him brought into camp for Game 3.
Yep.
Just to give him that experience, because he's going to be a New South Wales halfback of the future. There's no doubt about it. But
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out over the next week. There was, Nico, after the game, a really nice moment I saw on the field. Spencer Leniu, a lot of talk about the situation with Ezra Mam in Las Vegas, where he was suspended for 8 weeks for calling him a monkey.
Yep.
After the game, Spencer Leniu approached Ezra Mam. I thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But it was actually a really lovely moment. He looked as though he apologised to Ezra.
Yep.
They embraced, they hugged at the middle of Optus Stadium, and Ezra Mam accepted that apology. We know that there's been a lot of tension over the last 18 months, 16 months from that issue. I tried to speak to Ezra after the game. He didn't want to talk about it. He said happy for it to stay out on the field between those two. But there's no doubt it's lovely to see that those two sorting out that issue, because it was an ugly moment for the game, and whether or not Spencer meant it in a racially derogatory manner or not, Ezra took it that way. So for him to accept that apology, for them to embrace in the middle of the field, I thought it was a really lovely moment last night that went unnoticed.
It's nice to hear that, because it's almost a bit of closure. I mean, it's been a long 18 months for both those players, rightly or wrongly. They've been in the headlines. It's even continued. I mean, Spencer's running with Jonathan Thurston in April.
I don't know if you patched it up with JT or not.
This issue has just continued to drag and drag and drag. Both of them have come out probably not looking great for whatever reasons.
Ezra's a completely different issue
Yes,
altogether. But with the incident involving the family, which he was driving under the influence. So,
but to hear Spenny put out the olive branch to Ezra, that's lovely to hear.
Especially after
Hopefully
a loss.
That's the end of it. Hopefully we can now move on and both of them can go about their business.
Yeah, well, after a loss, I just thought he would have been in the heat of the moment. He might not have wanted to, but hats off to him for doing so, and the way Ezra Mam accepted it as well. I felt that was a really nice moment. You can see the vision on the Sydney Morning Herald website if you're interested in seeing that. Game 3, decider, Sydney. We spoke a little bit about it. Are you worried about this Queensland team coming to Sydney and getting the job done and stealing a series they probably don't deserve to win?
I wasn't worried heading into last night, and they all made us look like mugs. But I just keep going back to what we spoke about at the top of this podcast. If they can get it right, if they can string an 80 minutes performance together, Queensland don't get near them. We speak about Nathan Cleary and Payne Haas going into this game under injury clouds. Game 1, Stephen Crichton and Payne Haas, I think, went in under injury clouds. It's just, we haven't had a smooth preparation yet. Mitchell Moses goes down at Lura on the Thursday before the game. Jerome comes in. Jerome was a great replacement. I just think if we can have a trouble-free preparation, we should win. Yeah. And I'd love to see them win, naturally because they're New South Wales fans, but just for Laurie. Laurie's waited a long, long time to get this overdue series win.
Can you imagine if they don't and the criticism of Laurie Daly? Like he deserves it. They have the superior team. There is no doubt about it on paper that they should be winning this series. But
it's a crime if they don't win. We are. On paper, we should be winning 9 times out of 10.
Does the heat fall on Laurie if they don't win?
It's his first season in charge. I don't know.
You don't want to call for anyone's head now. I know.
It's a bit harsh.
I guess it depends on the manner in which
one series.
If they do lose, it's the manner in which they perform in Game 3. Like if they are blown off the park at home, well, the alarm bells might be ringing. But I think Laurie's done a good job so far of galvanising this team.
Yep.
They're playing decent enough football. You got Bellamy in there with Panisi. I think regardless of the result, you go in the next season and you hope he turns it around if they lose.
It's a bit harsh to put the blowtorch on Laurie because at the end of the day, there's been little debate about his selections. I mean, he's picked the best team available. Yeah. And there's been little...
He's nailed it, yeah.
There's been no objections there, so it's
maybe Terrell May. There was a lot of talk Game 1 that he should have been in the team, but apart from that, it's hard to argue with the team that he's picked and the job he's doing behind the scenes. But let's see how it all plays out. You and I will be back to dissect it all leading into Game 3.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of 4020.
When do you fly out?
3:30 the Savo. People are probably listening to this thinking that's already happened, but late one. We'll go hang out a little bit together.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Day club, something.
Something. Perth Bears, baby. Let's go.
See you next time.